Hi everybody, welcome to the Steckline Report. Well, you know, it's been something like 12 years since we've been able to send cattle south because of BSE. Can you believe BSE has been a problem that long? And it's caused us a headache for that many years? Folks, it's changed. Stand by, I'll talk about it in a minute.
I first got started in the cattle business. My wife and my father-in-law got me into it. I love dealing with the animals and being in the outdoors. At American Ag Credit, I know a lot of them are in the same business that I am. You know, therefore they understand what I need and what problems I'm against, so they can work with you on it, and it makes it much easier.
It's been passed down to me through the generations, and I want to pass it on down to the next generation or two.
Well, after a 12-year ban on feeder cattle and slaughter cattle going south, folks, we've got it changed. It looks like U.S. cattle and pork producers now can expect a better market as they go south to Mexico and even Peru under a pair of agreements that those countries announced with the USDA just about 5 days ago. Starting immediately, U.S. cattle producers can export fed cattle to Mexico for slaughter. Mexico had their border closed to slaughter cattle since BSE was found in 2003. Our Undersecretary for Marketing and Regulatory Programs said the reopening of the market for slaughter-ready cattle to Mexico has been an issue he's worked on since he was a state official in New Mexico, and has worked specifically on building a market in Mexico for U.S. cattle. He says this was a priority. And USDA expects that the announcement would lead to about a $15 million increase in live cattle to Mexico. The border opens immediately, requires, as you can imagine, some documentations before you export. I hope that isn't a 2-week deal, but in any event, this is good news. And then on top of that, they announced that they have reached an agreement with Peru to expand sales of fresh and chilled pork products to that country. Speaking of beef products, boy, we're importing more and exporting less. Not a surprise. This is the second month in a row that I've told you this is happening. But listen to this. Beef imports were up almost 50% during February, 48.8%. Most of that increase is coming from Australia, Brazil, Mexico, and New Zealand. It's primarily fabricating beef, we call it. It's not the good steaks and and roasts that we like to have, but it helps our hamburger and a few things like that. It doesn't make any difference. It's still imports. Beef imports amounted to almost 15% of our total U.S. production during February. Now, just in opposition to that, exports were down about almost 3%, 2.6% in February. That was primarily because of Mexico, Hong Kong, and Canada, they say. Beef exports equaled about 10% of February production. Imports from Canada down 15.2% in February. Imports of cattle from Mexico up 3.5%. And of course our dollar hasn't helped us much. That's one of the reasons why our exports are down, not only for beef, but for all farm products, no doubt about that. This is an interesting point. What about beef demand right here in the United States? Well, it was up 12.5% in February. At these higher prices, it still is a mind-boggling situation for me. Fed cattle prices in the last week or so, mostly lower. Feeder cattle prices, steady to strong about everywhere. It looks like we're still looking at 400 to 500 pound cattle in that 309 to make it 3 to 340 area. April feeder cattle contracts, 212, 215 a lot of days. Folks, it's strong. Wrapping things up here on the Steckline Report, looks like the El Nino is maybe for real. Pacific Ocean, warm, much warmer than usual at this time of the year. And that tells us, along with lower trade winds, that supposedly the southern 25% of the United States would be wetter than normal if all this takes place, according to the meteorologists that supposedly know. I say supposedly because if they do, it's a new one on me. But in any event, this is a wild shot. I just thought I'd throw it out to you. I think most of the moisture would even be south of us in Kansas, but it doesn't make any difference. We might look for maybe wetter weather if this El Nino continues to strengthen in the Pacific. And if you folks will stay tuned for the next Steckline Report, I'll sure appreciate it. See you then.